burnout and not taking care of your team ends up costing you more. So you have to think of it an investment runway as a result. We're at like 86% retention this year, 85 to
Wow.
86% retention.
Wow.
With 108 employees in a fast-paced consulting firm, that's virtually impossible. I don't know that any of our competitors can say that. And it's because we've always just listened to our team first.
They say it's lonely at the top. They're right. But you don't have to scale your company alone. Welcome to the Scaling CEO. I'm Glenn Gow, the CEO Success Coach. On this podcast, I sit down with top performing CEOs to uncover the hidden patterns and frameworks behind their success so you can avoid common pitfalls and accelerate your company's growth. Now, on to the show. My guest today is Jennifer Barnes. Jennifer is the definition of a scaling expert. She's not just a theorist, she's been in the trenches and built not one, but two massively successful companies from the ground up. She's the founder and CEO of Optima Office, a firm that provides the critical financial and HR horsepower, the fractional CFOs, controllers, and HR teams that companies need to grow. After scaling her first company to become an industry leader, she started Optima and landed it on the list of fastest growing companies, both nationally and in her region. What's fascinating about Jennifer is her core philosophy: people over profits. In a world of cutthroat growth, she has proven you can build a powerhouse team of over 100 employees by putting people first. She's tenacious, a connector, and she has a unique perspective on the numbers and the people that truly drive scale. If you want to know what it really takes to grow, you're about to find out. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Such a kind introduction.
Happy
Appreciate
to
it.
happy to introduce you. I read that you love speeding down the mountain on a snowboard. That sounds a lot like being a CEO in a scaling company. It's thrilling, it's fast, and one wrong move from a total wipeout. How has being a snowboarder shaped your approach to navigating the risks of rapid growth?
I think you have to be somewhat risky to speed down the mountain on a snowboard. So maybe it's just inherently who I am I'm not a risk averse person. I'm willing to take chances and I like to have fun doing it. So if that's a parallel.
And I suspect that is true of many CEOs who are listening to this as well, right? By definition, if you've started something or you're running something, you're taking risks every day. So you've scaled two successful companies in the same industry. When you started Optima, after leaving your first company, what was the one operational insight you implemented from day one that you learned from your prior experience?
Well, I would say that at the first company, I had inherited people over the years and I didn't let them go. And sometimes I couldn't let them go. And so when I had the opportunity to start a second company, I really made sure that culturally, every single person that joined me really fit the culture already. I find it very difficult for you to train people to fit your culture.
Uh-huh.
They're either your people or they're not, right? For the most part.
And talk to us about how you test for that. I hear about CEOs wanting to test for that, but sometimes they struggle with that.
Well, I think it's somewhat, I don't want to get too simplistic, but you have to list your values and then you have to ask questions in an interview process that support the values. Um, One simple for me, let me know the last time that you were kind, that you did something kind for somebody else. One of our first values is being kind and caring. I want to
Oh,
know that the team that I hire are kind people and that they're going to do their best to really take care of their clients and care about their coworkers. And so I ask questions around kindness, and you can tell pretty quickly if someone's just if that's not one of their attributes. I mean, you can't always tell, but I certainly try.
I've heard of an amazing interview technique. Now, you can't do this one-on-one, but when you're hiring a group of people, you put them all in the room and you have each person come up to the front of the room and give a little talk about who they are. But the interviewer, the person who's trying to evaluate people,
is not watching the speaker, but rather the people in the room to see,
Mm,
are they on their phone? Are they looking somewhere else? Or are they paying attention to that speaker? Are they connected and caring about that person in the front of the room? And those are the people that get asked back for the next interview.
interesting. I don't do mass interviews like that. I usually do one-on-ones, but I
Sure,
like I can
sure.
appreciate I can
Because,
appreciate that.
well, right, we're looking for clues for kindness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, your business exists because CEOs often lack financial and HR wisdom. So, from your unique vantage point, what's the single biggest blind spot you see CEOs have? What's the biggest disconnect between their vision and the reality of their numbers or what they're doing with their people?
I think the biggest disconnect is when they think their bookkeeper is gonna be able to fill a controller seat.
Sure.
Every single business needs a controller. Even if it's an assistant controller level person, they need somebody that can lead, manage, and direct the accounting department. I've never met a bookkeeper who can do every balance sheet schedule correctly and that can spit out a set of financials that has no issues. And so, with my firm, if a company really loves their bookkeeper, we don't need them to get rid of that person. We'll just mentor and train and work with that person. And so I think there's oftentimes a one size fits all. My one employee is doing all my books, or doing my financials, or doing my HR, and that really is a dying breed of human that can do all of that well. We call
Right.
it Betty the bookkeeper, right? And usually Betty is getting into, her late 60s and 70s and wants to retire, or maybe they've been doing it that way for so long. There's a lot of antiquated systems and processes, a lot of manual efforts, but they love Betty. She's been with them forever. So
Right.
we say, hey, let's just work above Betty. Let's work above that person and make sure you have the right financial insight. Um, because very likely Betty's not going to put together a Power BI database and make sure that you have all the right dashboards and key performance indicators that drive profitability. And they probably hasn't even heard of Power BI.
Right. Right. Well, you'll like this. When I'm working with CEOs that don't have a full financial department yet, maybe they have Betty, the bookkeeper, and they recognize they're missing some strategic insight into their numbers. I say, don't go hire a CFO. You're not ready for that. Rather, go hire a firm that has that CFO. They also might have someone at a VP of finance level and a controller level, and then a senior bookkeeper level. And you can get whatever you need when you need it by working with a firm because you're not ready to build out that entire organization.
I love it. You should be one of our salespeople.
Okay, we're on. So I found a great quote from you in an interview. I learned that in business, you can't get your feelings hurt. It's just business. This has helped me have a very thick skin. Talk to me about the process of forging that armor. How does a leader scale themselves personally to handle the brutal side of the job?
I mean, a lot of it's about resiliency. How resilient are you? And not to take things personally, because oftentimes you're thinking more about it than the other person is. And it's really having an objective point of view, just looking at it from all different types of angles. I would say I wasn't always as good at that as I am now. And it took a lot of emotional intelligence training, right? You really have to understand different personalities, how they react, how to lead and manage people. Everyone's motivated by something different. And in order to be a leader, you need to understand what that is, and then maybe not to how to react to it in a negative way. And
That's
same
great.
thing, look optimistic.
I appreciate that because the job of a CEO can be very hard, and especially if you're maybe dealing with a board and the board's giving you feedback that you don't like, or maybe some large customer. I was just dealing with a CEO who's having a very tough time, and what's interesting is he showed up late to our meeting. He said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I showed up late. I was getting ready to go hiking, and I was so into this, getting ready that I forgot we had a meeting." And then he was telling me how he's having hard time getting motivated because he's getting all this negative feedback from people. And we talked about how does he take that time prior to our meeting where he was not thinking about the negative things. He was actually excited about going hiking. and apply that during the day, and so that he can be at his best during the day, even though there are arrows being fired in his direction. And so you're right. It's an emotional and mental exercise to put yourself in the right place at the right time so you can perform at the highest level. And it sounds like you're really good at that.
I try.
So your motto is happy staff, happy clients. Many CEOs struggle to scale uh, with the happy clients part and completely forget about the happy staff equation. What's your advice to a CEO who's burning out their team in the name of growth?
Well, I think it depends on capital constraints too, because if they're having, the team has to wear 5, 6, 7 hats, it might be because they can't afford anything else. I think they need to look at it as an investment. I'm I'm more into taking on debt than giving away equity, if at all possible. And so if it does mean getting a bridge loan and really spending the money that you need to spend in order to keep your people happy and not overwork them, because burnout and not taking care of your team, it ends up costing you more. And so you have to think of it as a runway, of an investment runway. Okay, if I do this now, that means 6 months from now, a year from now, it's going to pay really positive results. um, we're at like 86% retention this year, 85,
Wow.
86% retention.
Wow.
With 108 employees in a fast-paced consulting firm, that's virtually impossible. I don't know that any of our competitors can say that. And it's because we've always just listened to our team first, and if they're happy, and we've already hired for the right cultural fit,
Right.
they're probably going to take really good care of their clients. And then we have to just make sure that we are keeping the pulse on the clients. Anything, how are you doing? Anything else we can help with? And so you have to focus on both. But I think first and foremost, you have to focus on your people.
I think that's amazing. And congratulations on an 86% retention rate. When I talk to CEOs, some of the times we bring up the topic of what does turnover cost? And it's a mystery to most people because it doesn't show up on your P&L. But when you imagine what happens when you have turnover, you lose all the work that that person was doing. Other people have to do more work on their behalf, or the work doesn't get done at all. There's opportunity costs for growth. And then we have to recruit, and there's a cost to that. And then we have to onboard, and there's a cost to that. And when we really look at the full cost of turnover, some people are shocked
Yeah.
and recognize they should be focusing a lot more like you on retention.
Yeah. And you can track it. We have a timekeeping system. And so if we were to lose somebody, let's say a controller is on 5 accounts and we lose that person, all of the time to replace them is put to staff transition cost.
Oh,
And
nice.
so we know exactly what that is. We know the exact cost to replace certain people, recruiting costs. So it's really about slicing and dicing your information and tracking it well. So if a company doesn't know what it costs them, then we should probably be helping them.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like it. It sounds like it. Now, your philosophy is people over profits, which is easy to say, but incredibly hard to do. And most people don't say that. But give me an example, give the audience an example here of a time you had to make a tough call that prioritized your people, but put real financial pressure on the business.
We've never really had a lot of financial pressure because I've ran it so that it at least breaks even all the time. Our break even is about 10 million in revenue at this point in time. And so fortunately, we'll do about 14 million this year. And so we're well past break even, and we're doing well financially. But I will say that a good example, it happens more often than you might think, is a client's a jerk. They're not being nice to my team. The team's not happy. The team complains. They know that if they call and talk to me, I'm going to take them off that client, and I'm going to have a conversation with the client to consider, are they even someone we want to work with long term? Oftentimes it's a lack of EQ or awareness that they are being a jerk. And when I have a conversation with them, they might say, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that your team felt that way. I've just been going so fast, so this and that. And I wish they would have told me." And then they correct the behavior. And then my team's like, "Oh wow, thank you for like going to bat for us." Um, but it does happen where they uh, get even more angry and they are even more of a jerk and they say, "How dare you? You know, this and that, your team this, your team that." I've had to fire clients because they thought it was appropriate to write off their backyard renovation and on the company's books. And, our team was like, "No, you need to take a distribution. It's not business." And they're like, "No, we don't want to pay taxes." And so I jump on the call with the CEO and he got very mad at me and he ended up hanging up and then he wrote us a negative review. And I just responded to the review like, "Well, I'm sorry that we're not going to let you, avoid taxes. Like that's
Right.
tax fraud. So find a firm that's so gray that, not only are they going to, probably do things incorrectly in general, but they're not going to give you good advice. And
Right.
so if you were to go through an IRS audit, it's not going to be on my watch."
Well, good for
So
you.
we
Good for
stand
you.
up for ourselves. I'd rather have the people than the revenue.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, that's another quote we can apply to you. I like that. So the last category I want to talk about is AI.
Yeah.
And I know of a company similar to yours that is feeling downward pricing pressure from their clients who expect them to be using AI rather than people to provide their services. So that's one thing I see happening. I'm wondering how you are thinking about AI as it relates to your business, how you operate internally, how you work with your customers, how you do financial modeling and HR analytics. With please share with us what you're doing to take advantage of this opportunity with AI and deal with that downward pricing pressure if you're feeling that at all.
We're not feeling it at all because we have found a way to be more efficient, more productive, and serve more people. So, a great example is instead of spending hours on manipulation in Excel, creating financial reports, we've created a pretty amazing interface between QuickBooks Online and Power BI. And it automatically takes a chart of accounts and some reports and some graphs. And just with the touch of a button, you connect it. And now we can get everything that might have taken 3, 4, 5 hours, and it takes 5 minutes. And so you could argue, well, that's cannibalization of your own time. Well, no, because we take all that great information that would have taken us 3, 4, 5 hours in the past, and now we can spend an extra hour or two sitting down with the client and explaining the financials, helping to make strategic decisions about what's going on in their numbers, really finding additional charts and graphs to add, some little drivers of profitability for them. On the easy data entry side, it's using more automation, it's using more systems. Like, what can we do that's going to cut time, not lower rates? And so I haven't felt that. We're not into just how cheap can we do things. We are about efficiency and not having any duplication of efforts. Um, And so for us, it's more about just capitalizing on all the new tools out there, but they're not going to replace a human. Um,
Right.
and we also
You-
don't offshore. Like I don't have any offshore people. All 108 of my employees are here in the United States, and I like providing jobs and opportunity. And so if I was there to support another country, I'd rather support my fellow Americans than hire
Right.
here.
Right. I get that. I respect that. So it sounds like the way you're looking at AI is we're going to add more value for our client
Right.
because we're going to be on the leading edge of taking advantage of the tools so that ultimately I as a client am going to feel like, wow, I'm getting more and more from
Yeah.
you. And therefore I'm less likely to come to you and say, look, I need to reduce how much I'm spending because I might feel really great about the added value you're providing.
Oh, well, don't get me wrong. We do have clients all the time that say we need to reduce the amount that they're spending. But that's more because their own market or their own revenue or their own issues and cash constraints. And so we do our best to streamline. Uh, but oftentimes it's not a lot we can do. They just need more sales.
Right. Right. And well, fantastic. Anything else on the topic of AI before we wrap up today?
No, I just think if a company isn't using AI to their advantage and they're not boosting productivity and being able to do more with the same amount of money, then they're missing out. So we're happy to help support those efforts.
Love it. I love it. So, Jennifer, how can people reach you?
Sure, our website is optimaoffice.com, or you can actually call our office. We have live people that answer.
Amazing.
I know. 858-283-1234 is our phone number. Or you can send me an email at jennifer@optimaoffice.com.
I think that says volumes about you that you have live people ready to answer the phone. So congratulations on that. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
That's a wrap for today's episode of The Scaling CEO. If you found this valuable, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with a fellow CEO who could benefit. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please give us a quick rating as it really helps more people find the show. I'm Glenn Gow, the CEO Success Coach. See you next time for more proven strategies to grow your business and leadership.